Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency, esteemed panelists, distinguished guests with us at the hall today and joining us virtually. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. My name is Nurhuaida and it is with great pleasure I am given the opportunity to moderate the very first session for today's World FinTech Festival in Brunei Darussalam. We will be discussing digitalization initiatives and of course, testing our synergy in this hybrid model where we will be joined by panelists and participants, physical and virtual. Sheng and Chee, are you with us?
Yes, hi everyone.
Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, personally, I have enjoyed various initiatives introduced to drive digitalization. Yang Berhormat Pihin earlier mentioned in his keynote address that with the waiver of the charges, interbank transfers have increased by 116% between March and October this year. I, of course, being a true Bruneian, have made use of this initiative as it has allowed me to shop, but I think my husband's here, save more efficiently. So maybe, before I invite my panelists to share their views and insights, if you can kindly scan the QR code in front of you. Okay, let me just activate the poll. So have you scanned the QR code? Is our slider on? So let me pose this question before we start. What initiatives to promote digitalization that you have enjoyed to date or is looking forward to? During this session, we will have representatives from government agencies and also the industry who will be sharing some of the digitalization initiatives that have been introduced both in Brunei Darussalam and Singapore, and how these initiatives, in particular enabling infrastructure initiatives, will assist to develop and grow not just FinTech, but digital economy as a whole. First up is Yang Mulia Tuan Haji Hairul Muhammad Daud bin Haji Abdul Karim, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Infocommunications, Cybersecurity, Strategy and Corporate, from the Ministry of Transport and Infocommunications, MTIC, who will share with us the Digital Economy Master Plan 2025, launched by the Brunei Darussalam's Digital Economy Council in June this year. This roadmap is a 5-year plan that charts, guides, and acts as a reference to Brunei Darussalam's initiatives towards becoming a smart nation. We are very honored to have with you today, Tuan Haji. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang Berhormat Pimpinan Orang Kaya Sri Kerana Datuk Seri Setia Dr. Haji Awang Abu Bakar bin Haji Apong, Minister of Home Affairs and Deputy Chairman of AMBD Board of Directors. Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Setia Haji Abdul Mukti bin Haji Muhammad Daud, Minister at the Prime Minister's Office, as member of Board of Directors of AMBD. Yang Mulia Puan Raja Rokiah bin Haji Badar, Managing Director of AMBD. Yang Mulia Puan Nurhuaida, our moderator this morning. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. First and foremost, I would like to congratulate AMBD for organizing this morning's event. And it is also a privilege for me to be invited as a panel in this morning session. So as mentioned by Puan Moderator this morning, I will be sharing an overview of the Brunei Darussalam Digital Economy Master Plan. Alhamdulillah, our journey on digital economy and smart nation has been accorded significant attention and also priority. This journey of digital economy and smart nation is guided by His Majesty's aspiration towards transforming Brunei Darussalam to be a smart nation. And this can also be seen through His Majesty's Titah, emphasizing on 4th IR, digital economy, digital services and also technologies. And in the recent TITA, His Majesty has also emphasized on the need for digital technologies, which include for education, business and governance that will eventually be able to transform Bandar Seri Begawan as the smart city. The Digital Economy Master Plan was launched in June of this year. It envisioned the development of smart nation through digital transformation. The mission of the Digital Economy Master Plan is to drive and enhance Brunei Darussalam socio-economic growth through digital transformation. And this is also for us to, in order for us to achieve the strategic outcomes of developing a digital and future-ready society that is capable of utilizing and benefiting technologies that are implemented, ensuring a vibrant and sustainable economy, and creating a digitally conducive ecosystem so that innovation can be supported and developed as and when needed. And of course, when we discuss about digital economy, it goes beyond ICT sector. It covers initiative and activities both in the digital and non-digital sector. And what we are looking at is opportunities where digital technologies can be deployed in order for us to increase productivity, production in industry, improve efficiency and transparency of government, and also encourage and facilitate participation of individual and businesses. Under the purview of digital economy, which is co-chaired by Dr. Amin, Minister at the Prime Minister's Office, and the Minister of Finance too, as well as Yang Berhormat Dr. Mutalib, Minister of Transport and Infocommunications, several clusters have been identified under the master plan, and these include logistics and transportation, energy, business services, tourism, financial services, health, agri-food, education, halal, and also construction. And to support the implementation of the master plan across these clusters, several strategic thrusts have been identified. This includes industry digitalization, government digitalization, a thriving digital industry to nurture growth of the digital sector via improvement of key policies like data protection and cybersecurity, manpower and talent development to have a population that is digitally capable and adaptable to development in technology. And within this framework, we have also identified key enablers. These are Smart Nation Platform, Digital Government Framework, Policy and Regulatory Framework, Cybersecurity, as well as Research and Development. And within the above, Digital Economy Council has also given priority to three flagship projects, which can help to develop the government, the industry, as well as society. The first flagship project is digital identity. This is the fundamental piece that connects all other components of the Digital Economy Master Plan. And the second flagship project is the National Information Hub, which focuses towards improving information sharing across government agencies. And the third flagship project is the implementation of the National Payment Hub. This is being implemented by AMBD, and the ability to make payment in the digital world is the key for us to move to a digital economy. And at this point, I must also highlight that the Digital Economy Master Plan is a living document, and it is also constantly being reviewed by the Council. And I think with that, I end the presentation.
Thank you, Tuan Haji. Looks like the Digital Economy Master Plan will definitely require strong collaboration, not just between government agencies, including NTIC and AMBD, but also with the private sectors. Inshallah, in the spirit of whole of nation, together we can achieve this aspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be saving the Q&A after all our panelists have presented this morning. Well, for my session, that is. For our audience in the hall today, if you have any questions, you can submit your questions by scanning the QR code again in front of you. I think there is a poll tab and a Q&A tab. So you can click on the Q&A tab and just submit your question there. We will be addressing it after all the panelists have spoken for this session. Next, we have Mr. Simon Hansman, Head of Group Information and Technology from the Baiduri Bank. In February 2020, AMBD led the Digital Payment Hub project before handing it over to a consortium of local financial institutions, including Baiduri Bank, BIBD, and Perbadanan Taib, to execute the project and eventually own the hub when the project is completed. The objective of this Digital Payment Hub is to facilitate instant payment services. Good news for everyone who voted in the poll earlier this morning. And as mentioned by Tuan Haji Hairul earlier, is also one of the Digital Economic Council flagship projects. To represent the consortium, I would like now to invite Simon to share with us more on the Digital Payment Hub.
Okay, thank you very much. And good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk about a few things. Maybe go to the next slide. Firstly, what is a Digital Payment Hub? We need to define what that is and what it can do, and why. Why do we want to do that in Brunei? And then finally, what does it mean for Brunei FinTechs? Yeah. Okay, can we move on to the next slide? Okay. So a Digital Payment Hub is a centralized hub that enables real-time payments between parties. So consumer to consumer, consumer to merchants, and so on. It also is something that is open. It can be used to connect multiple participants. You have your banks, obviously. You have payment processors, fintechs, and they can all interconnect to the hub and all provide similar services and connect to each other. Some key features of a digital payment hub is addressing. So it's not just bank accounts now or SWIFT codes or whatever. Users are identified by an IC number or a mobile number or even a username. So that this makes it much easier for consumers to send money to each other. And that's translated at the hub and then translated into accounts. A very key point for the digital payment hub is real-time settlement. So when you send money, within 15 seconds, the money is in the recipient's account. So it's real-time. And it also means like for when you're paying a merchant, the merchant receives the funds immediately. And probably one of the really key points is that it's API and standards based. So we want to make it to be a solid platform for the future where we can integrate with anyone who wants to integrate, fintechs, payment processors, and to provide the platform so later on down the road we can integrate with other payment rails, things like card schemes, maybe even things like blockchain or cryptocurrency. And then also, a lot of countries around the region have invested in payment hubs, and there's a big drive at the ASEAN level to integrate. So there's a long-term goal is we can integrate our payment hub with other payment hubs around the region. So why do we need this? Brunei, we already have a number of payment channels that have been established. We have the real-time gross settlement system, the automated clearinghouse, we have point-of-sale networks, and payment gateway solutions. So RTGS and ACH, the issue we have with them is that it's restricted to banks. It's a bank transfer, and funds are settled same or next day, depending on when you send the transfer. And at the moment, it's free. And as has been mentioned previously, there's been a huge uptake in usage of the RTGS and ACH. So there's a huge demand from the customers to have cheap, quick payments. But normally, it's quite expensive. It's not something that it's a bit hard to justify in terms of having a low-cost solution. Obviously, we have the point-of-sale network, but that's mainly restricted to card brands, and you have to be an acquirer of a card brand, and the merchant receives the funds the next day. We also have the online payment gateway solutions within Brunei, and again, that's usually card-based, and it's online payments to merchants only, so there's no person-to-person payments. So what is missing is a low-cost, open and real-time payment infrastructure covering all the major payment types. So by the major payment types, I mean person-to-person, person-to-business, person-to-government, and then all the other options, business-to-business, business-to-person, business-to-government, and so on. So there's many different payment types. It needs to be low cost, so it should be very cheap to do the transactions, and in some cases it should be free. Open, so obviously the banks are going to be the key players in this, but we need to open it up to fintechs and other payment providers so that we can leverage the infrastructure and develop the payment infrastructure in Brunei. And we want it to be real time. In 2020, we have to have real time. So payments have to be in the account within seconds. So this kind of infrastructure gives us a platform to enable new services, enables us to connect to new payment rails, and ultimately provide a better experience for customers as well as new experiences for the customers. So what's the kind of future once the infrastructure is in place? So the first step would obviously be the bank mobile apps will connect in to allow consumers to do payments at merchants and sending payments to each other in real time. Then obviously the e-wallets can come in. So we have a number of e-wallets within Brunei. They can connect into the payment hub and you can enable payments across bank accounts to e-wallets and vice versa. Then as I mentioned, cross-border payments. This will probably come a bit further down the track, but there's a big drive at the ASEAN level to have a cross-border payment hub there. And then there's other things we can do. We can do things like enable direct debits, integrate with other networks like the point-of-sale networks, ATM networks, utilize QR, NFC, and so forth. So ultimately, what does it mean for the Brunei fintechs? I guess the key word would be opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity that this will bring to you, perhaps in a way that you have not been able to do in the past. So you can develop new solutions. You can, you can integrate e-wallet into your into the system so that you can leverage the infrastructure. Some examples could be, if you have say a utility, you can make it an app for a utility payment provider. And you set up a direct debit. The customer goes into the app, sets up the direct debit, and the amount changes every month. But the direct debit handles that, and it's all automatically processed, and it's very easy for the customer. Obviously, if everything's real time, if you're doing top ups, bill payments, they also become real time. And I think, especially for the smaller merchants, SMEs, micro merchants, who traditionally they can't afford a POS terminal because they don't want to pay the rates from the banks because it eats into their profit too much. With something like with this kind of infrastructure, they can accept digital payments at a very cheap rate, and they don't need to have a point-of-sale system. And I think the final point would be the idea is that being open and standards-based, integration is possible, and you're only limited by your imagination. So I think it's very exciting. I think there's a lot of opportunity coming up, and I think watch this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. On that note, can I just ask quickly, if there is an opportunity to integrate it with Brew Health app?
Of course, of course.
So, just in case that we purchase food or that is not good for our health, and the digital payment will probably reject our purchases.
I mean, it is definitely possible.
Okay. So now, joining us from Singapore, we have representatives from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, and the Smart Nation and Digital Government Office, Sheng and Chee. I hope we haven't lost you. You're still there, right? We can still see you.
Yes, hi.
Okay. So,
Yeah, I'm still here.
okay. First up is Mr. Yong Sheng Lee, Deputy Director from the MAS, who will share more about the Financial Sector Technology and Innovation Scheme, or the FSTI 2.0, an enhancement to the FSTI, which was first introduced in 2016. Yesterday, MD Ravi Menon, in his remarks at the Singapore FinTech Festival, also announced that MAS will earmark 20% of the FSTI budget to support green fintech projects in line with Singapore's commitment to global efforts on mitigating climate risk. To share more on the FSTI 2.0, Sheng Lee, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, honorable ministers and our dear friends from Brunei. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the friends from the rest of the world who are watching this. So that's an introduction. My name is Sheng. I'm from the MES FinTech Innovation Group. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to join you today. So let's just jump straight into the presentation. So as you all might know, that our MD has already committed to invest 250 million Sing dollars over the next 3 years to support the innovation effort in the Singapore financial sector. Now, and because of the currency interchangeable agreement that we have, so this 250 million also translated 250 million Brunei dollars. So on this, we will also we can see that we have 7 key initiatives that we are building on. The first layer is what we call the capabilities building for the financial sectors. So it includes the innovation lab as well as the advanced cybersecurity labs that we are hoping to anchor in Singapore. And why is this important? It's because often when we want to kickstart into a new emerging sector, we realize that there's a lot of talent that we need in order for us to emerge into the space. So what we do is that we want to anchor the best talent from all over the world into Singapore in this cutting edge fields. And with that, first we create a talent. Second, we create the talent capability transfer program to our local workforce. And most importantly, these capabilities can actually help to create the buy-side demand for a lot of the supporting ecosystem. And because of that, over the last 5 years, we actually have anchored more than 40 innovation labs in Singapore and created more than 1,000 fintechs in Singapore as well. Okay, so that is the first layer, the capability building for FIs. Now the second layer is what we call the end-to-end innovation support for all the companies in Singapore, no matter which phase of the sector you are at, be it right from the start or all the way to the end where you are very advanced. So I will touch on this in the next slide. So in the next slide, I think you can see 5 sectors here. So if you look at the right at the top, you can see digital acceleration grant, and this is where we think it will be the start of most of the innovations cycle for most of the companies. And the reason why we are doing this digital acceleration grant, basically we want all the smallest FIs and fintechs, anyone with less than 200 headcount, to build the basic digital infrastructure first before they can do any other innovation projects. So this grant, basically, we can fund 120,000 Sing dollars for any kind of digital solution that can help to improve their internal operations, to help increase their customer engagement, or to increase their productivity. So this is the foundation layer that we hope to build for all the FIs and SMEs in Singapore that is small and need more help to kickstart their whole digital journey. Now, second, after you have built the foundation, the next thing that a FI want to do is the proof of concept. Basically, it's early stage experimentation. So for this, MES, we are very supportive of the industry effort and initiative, and we actually want to support the proof of concept in a way that is meaningful for experimentation, especially with a new technology. So every POC that came to us, we have sent them to an industry panel for evaluation before they come back to MES for final evaluation. The industry panel is made out of 5 judges, and depending on how many verbal votes we get from the judges, the funding support and funding quantum will vary accordingly. So if everyone is supportive for a project, can get 70% support up to $400,000. And if you get 4 votes, then the funding support will go down accordingly. And the whole idea of proof of concept is such that you want to support experimentation. So the moment we commit to you, regardless of whether a POC is a success or failure, to us, we will still give you the funding. And that is the whole spirit of supporting experimentation. Okay, now after you're done with proof of concept, okay, you have some early results. Then what will be the next phase? The next phase typically will involve the full implementation and rollout to the financial institution internally. And this is where our FI level projects funding will come into place. The whole purpose is to catalyze innovative ideas that can contribute significantly impact to your business operation. So you want to support the first mover projects, the cutting edge technologies, but all this at the end of it, it must come back to increase productivity or increase efficiency or new products that can help the FIs to do better. And with this, we have a general support up to 50% funding support and a cap of $1 million. Okay, and moving on, so we realize that when there's a lot of FI projects, the technology is a wide range. It can be API, it can be digital payments, it can be blockchain, IoT, 5G, etc. Now, there is one key thing that we'll be seeing that there's a lot of interest and it's very promising to the FI industry, and that is what we call the AI and data analytics. So for that, we have purposely created a special grant just to support to provide more deep support to the AI projects in Singapore. Okay, we call it the IDA grant, and for the IDA grant, we split it into 2 categories. The first category is the first mover AI projects in Singapore. No one else has done it before, but you choose to do it. And so for that, there is a lot more uncertainty and a lot more needle moving initiative that we feel that it requires more support. So we will fund all these first mover AI solutions with 50% support, capped at 1.5 million. For data analytics, it is not as tedious and as AI projects, so our funding quantum reduced from 1.5 million to 1 million. So this is the first mover solutions. Okay, now after that, let's say DBS has rolled out one solution. Okay, it's the first in Singapore. Then the other FIs in Singapore also realize that this is a good project. They also want to do it. Okay, but it is no longer first mover. And for that, we hear their concern, and we are also supportive of their effort to adopt AI. So because of that, we roll out another track. It's called the IDA Lite. So this is for proven AI solutions that somebody who has already done in Singapore, and you want to replicate to get the same benefit within your FI. So because the first mover has removed quite a lot of the uncertainty and a lot of the technical difficulties, so our support is reduced, but you can still enjoy a 30% support capped at 750K or 500,000, depending on whether it's an AI or data analytics projects. And lastly, after you roll out all these solutions internally, be it the AI DA's grant or be it the other kind of technology under the FI level projects, the final goal for us is that we want to build industry-wide infrastructure utilities so that many FIs can benefit at the same time. And this is what we call the industry-wide project, with the only aim to increase the efficiency in the FS sector so that we can continue to be a forward-looking financial hub. And for this, we will support up to 70% of the project cost. Okay, with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Please feel free to visit our website for more details. And I think if there's some time, we can have some meaningful discussion during the Q&A section as well. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sheng Li. If you have any questions for our Singaporean panelists, you can also post these questions on Slido, and I will ask them. Later after the discussions, after the presentations. Last but not least, we have Mr. Tan Chee Hao from the Smart Nation and Digital Office, Government Office. So Singapore is one of the Hi Chee Hao. So Singapore is one of the countries on the forefront in developing a national digital identity ecosystem. On Monday, Deputy Prime Minister Heng Swee Keat announced the launching of the Singapore Financial Data Exchange, SG Findex, which I understand will be discussed further in the next session. The SG Findex will be the world's first public digital infrastructure to use a national digital identity to retrieve personal financial information. This is a testament to Singapore's advanced efforts in adopting the Smart Nation initiative. Chee Hao, if you can share more with us on the Singapore's national digital identity.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends from Brunei and all around the world. Very happy and very honored to be here. I will maybe share a bit about our digital identity journey. We are still sort of learning as we go, so let's share what our experience has been so far and how we can work together. If we can maybe go to slide 2, let me share first the objectives of the national digital identity. In Singapore, when we set it up, I think we see it as a means for really to connect, empower, and to build an ecosystem of trust. Ultimately, is to provide a way that's convenient, secure for everyone to transact digitally. We hope that it's not just about convenience, but through this, businesses can also develop new business models. I think I heard about the Digital Economy Master Plan just now. I think this is one of the building blocks in any digital economy, and that's something that we hope to do in Singapore as well. And finally, we hope that it's not just within Singapore, but actually regionally, globally, with all our friends and partner countries, we can build a wider ecosystem of trust and interoperability. If I go to the next slide, so we started our digital identity journey. We were quite fortunate. We started many years ago, actually, with SingPass and subsequently CorpPass for businesses. So it started as a system where you use a username and a password, very similar to many of the online authentication systems you have today. In 2017, we embarked on the newer phase of our program, which is what we have now. And in 2018, we launched a SingPass mobile for all residents. Instead of having just a username and password, now we have transited into a mobile app where we think it's more easily updated. We can develop many more features and keep up with the technology faster. By the end of this year, we also hope to extend the SingPass mobile and SingPass system to all foreigners. Already people who are working and living in Singapore can use it, but even those who are outside may have reasons to transact with some of the, whether private sector or government services that are hosted in Singapore. We hope to open that up. Some stats for you. Right now, we have more than 2.2 million users of SingPass mobile. The number of SingPass users in total is slightly more than 4 million. Since, in the short 2 years, we're quite fortunate that we have converted more than 60% of our transactions from using the older passwords, SMS, OTPs to the mobile app. And we have a pretty good App Store rating right now. If I can go to the next slide. So what are the benefits of this? I think the benefits of a digital identity system, one that's national, first is high assurance. the identity data is something you can trust because in the case of Singapore, it's backed by our government. So in how they register people, backed by your NRIC data. We're using a public key infrastructure that's inherently open and secure, well tested, well established. And the use of mobile app makes it convenient. So it's mobile anywhere, right? And you can do both public and private sector services. Next slide, please. So on this slide, you can see a screenshot of the app. I mean, there's an updated version now, but briefly, within your mobile app, you can see your digital identity, your identities information. You can see your contact details, and you can see various information that you have submitted or has been collected by the government about you. But all this is stored securely so that nobody else can see it. Yeah. Next slide. This slide, on slide 6, you will see 6 go-to-market API products. This is actually probably the most important slide we have. The digital identity system is not going to be useful if all it does is using for login or if it's only for government services. What we have done is to try to create APIs that enable a whole range of services. So on this slide, you see first login as the very basic what businesses can do. So some of our banks, our insurance companies, so on and so forth, healthcare companies, they now provide login using SingPass. MyInfo is where I've heard just now about the importance of KYC, know your customer. So if you are signing up for a bank account or credit card in Singapore, you can do so online with instant approval because the information is automatically shared from your MyInfo profile. Verify, for example, registration at venues, at events, and you can just scan a QR code and share your identity and register without having to take out your physical cards. Facial recognition, this is something that's fairly new. We see it particularly important for inclusion purposes because some of our parts of our population, particularly the elderly, they may not have smartphones, and therefore you can now go to a public kiosk, access the public services through scanning your face. We have Sign. This was just recently launched, so where you can do digital signing. I think that's going to be quite a game changer, but we're at early days yet. And finally, authorization. Can you authorize certain transactions remotely? So it's very important. I mean, we are providing the APIs. We're not providing the services. The government has some services of our own, but we rely on a huge ecosystem. And that's where maybe I go to the next slide, slide 7. So you can see a whole range of logos and companies here. These are the people we're working with, and we are constantly expanding that. And we see very much the success of the national digital identity in the adoption by the private sector. It cannot be driven by the government alone. And finally, on my last slide, slide 8, this is where where Singapore would like to explore many other countries. We're still learning. We're still trying to improve our system along the way. So there's best practices with different countries. Mutual recognition in the particular area of like digital signatures, because for business transactions, I think many people are very interested to be able to do cross-border, as well as for data exchange. I think just now there was a mention of the Singapore Financial Data Exchange. In the future, maybe there can be some cross-border use cases. So that's all. Look forward to a lively panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chee. Let me just check with the floor manager. Do I still have time for questions? Zero. Well, actually, if you can just give me maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just take a question from each panelist. So maybe I'll start with Chee. So I think digital ID is not without its risks, right? So, and I think I came across an article by McKinsey in 2019 that synthetic identity fraud is the fastest growing type of financial crime in the United States. So I was just wondering, how do you address 1, cybersecurity and control risk, and 2, operational risks such as human execution error, unauthorized credential use? So, Chee?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said actually is something that keeps all of us up at night and we can't sleep because of that. I think think it's very difficult to totally eliminate all sorts of risks. I think when we design our systems within Singapore, so we try to make have as robust a design as possible. So security by design, that's something in the cybersecurity industry they pay a lot of attention to. The National Digital Identity is a project that is, various security agencies in Singapore, including the GovTech, our own cybersecurity team, also the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, the National Autoriti. We are working very closely on that. And it's not just ourselves, but also with the industry, because, the system could be safe, but there are so many different parties that rely on it, and attacks can come in through anywhere. Maybe I'll just make one point, which is that apart from all the technical measures, which is what people normally think of, user education is very key. For example, against phishing attacks, social engineering, no matter what you do, we have to complement it with the awareness, right? So check the link on your browser before you click on it, before you log in and authorize, give your passwords to anybody, don't give your passwords to anybody, for instance. So there are certain measures, technical measures we can do, but user education is still key. Thank you.
Thank you, Chee. I'll take one question from Slido. So maybe for Tuan Haji Hairul on the Digital Economy Master Plan. So the question is, what do you foresee as the greatest challenge in achieving the objectives of Brunei Darussalam's Digital Economy Master Plan?
Okay, thank you for the question. The effective implementation of the Digital Economy Master Plan, it actually requires whole of nation coordination. And Brunei being a small country, of course, it is an advantage for us in terms of we can deploy technology faster. But the other disadvantage that we need to overcome as a small country is in terms of limited resources. So in the context of Brunei Darussalam, being a small country, the resources is one of the challenge that we need to address. And I think the Digital Economy Council is well placed to address these challenges.
Okay. So I think that would include talent, and maybe hopefully with the digitalization and re-engineering of processes, this will also address the constraint and the resources. Yeah. Okay, maybe if I can have a question for Simon. I'll take one more question from Slido before we wrap up. So, okay. Simon, I think in the Digital Economy Master Plan presentation earlier, so it was mentioned that the digital payment hub is set to be the backbone of the digital ecosystem. So who do you think will benefit the most out of the digital payment hub?
That's quite easy. Everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone's going to benefit from it. So for the consumers, it's going to mean lower cost payments, more seamless interactions, in payment interactions, and real-time payments. For businesses, it means that they get their funds immediately. Businesses who haven't been able to do digital payments in the past because of the cost barrier now have an opportunity to enter that market. So they get a new payment channel available to them. And I think for the banks and the FinTechs, it provides a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential new innovation opportunities will come along with it, yeah. So everybody.
So everyone. Yeah. Okay. Maybe, Sheng Li, I'll have a question for you as well. I won't let you go too easy.
Sure, always okay.
So I'll just pick up a question from Slido. So the question is, the grants offered for capabilities building for FIs, what is the mechanism for this grant? Do companies have to pay back these grants?
Right. Very good question. So how we work is on a disbursement model. Let's say a company come to us, they have a project that costs 2 million okay, what we will do is that we agree to fund them, but the company must fork out the 2 million first on their own. Okay, and for the 2 million grant, we have a list of KPIs. Okay, and normally for a multi-year project, we split it into at the end of each year. So at the end of each year, they'll come back to us and say, okay, this is the first set of KPI. So we'll review, have they achieved it? If they have achieved it, we will disperse the money to them. So it works on a reimbursement model, contingent on them hitting the KPI. And after that, this process will continue for each year until the end of the project. So if the company do not meet any of the major KPI, we will not disperse the funding to them. So basically, no funding. But if they do hit all the KPI that we expected them to hit, then the funding will go to them after they have achieved all the KPIs. So I hope I answered your question.
Okay, so that would mean there's a close monitoring by the MAS with the grant recipients.
Correct. So we work closely with the industry throughout the whole process of the grant.
Okay. So I don't want to just pose the questions to the panelists, and because I probably negative 5 minutes by now, I would like now to pose a question to our audience instead, something for you to bring back as well. Let me just activate this. Okay. If you scan the QR code, yep. Okay. So the question is, what is your counterintuitive, half crazy, or maybe let's just go all out and say crazy wish list of initiatives or infrastructure required in the next 3 to 5 years to spur the development of the digital economy? 1 word, 2 words. I think there's a limit to 25 characters. Get there. Yep. I only have 18 responses. Can we get the word cloud up? Okay. Enable public cloud. Seems like that's the main one. I think digital ID, eKYC, e-wallet, cheap data. Don't we all want that? Okay. No, we can't get. Can we get that? Yep. Okay, so I have 50 responses, but that's fine. So, quantum computing, Islamic FinTech innovations, Wakaf management, cashless society, or I would like to say less cash society. Okay? So I think I'll just stop there. I don't want, okay. I'll just stop there. Yeah. Okay. So we can see the main ones will be digital ID, enable public cloud. I think we'll be keeping Tuan Haji Hairul and the team very busy in the next 3 to 5 years. So these are really interesting responses. And Tuan Haji Hairul, I think when you go back to the office, we wish you the very best of luck. So with that, I would like to thank my panelists, Tuan Haji Hairul, Simon, Sheng and Chee. Thank you very much for your presentations, views and insights to our audience here at the Empire. Thank you for your participation in the polls and question posed. My apologies for not being able to answer most of your questions, but I hope some of the questions are quite linked, so I think it will be addressed one way or another. And to those who are watching us virtually, including our colleagues back at the office, thank you for staying with us until the end of our session. We hope what was shared during this session have given you additional food for thought for the rest of today's event, and who knows, your wish list may even come true. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.